Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the epic history of Ghana, a powerful story of ancient empires, colonial conflict, and an unyielding quest for freedom.
So let's jump right in. But we're not going to start at the beginning. No, we're starting right at a massive turning point. March 6, 1957. This is the day the British colony, known as the Gold Coast, becomes Ghana, the very first sub-Saharan African nation to gain independence.
And this right here, this was the grand vision of its first leader, Kwame Nkrumah. He saw Ghana's freedom as, a beacon, a catalyst for the entire continent. So, to really get a handle on Ghana's incredible triumph, and yeah, its really turbulent future, we've got to go back, way back. Okay, so that celebration in 57, that was the culmination of a long, long journey. I mean, what a powerful symbol of hope, right? But you have to understand, this new nation wasn't built from scratch. It stood on the foundations of ancient kingdoms and powerful empires. So let's rewind the clock, back to the pre-colonial era, a time when powerful African states were the ones in control here. And the most dominant of them all? That was the Ashanti Empire. I mean, this was a highly organized state, and what held it all together was this incredibly potent symbol, the golden stool. It was said to contain the very spirit of the Ashanti nation. And from their capital, Kumasi, the Ashanti built this huge centralized empire. They controlled massive territories and, crucially, all the major trade routes. And we're not talking about some simple kingdom, no. This was a sophisticated society. It had an advanced bureaucracy and was famous, absolutely renowned for its immense wealth in gold. But as you can probably guess, this powerful African empire was on a collision course with ambitious powers from across the sea. You see, when the Portuguese first showed up in the 1470s, it was all about gold. That's where the name Gold Coast comes from. But then, tragically, that focus shifted to the absolutely devastating transatlantic slave trade. The entire coastline basically became a battleground. You had the British, the Dutch, the Danes, all competing. And they built these massive fortresses to protect their interests. Think about this. It's the highest concentration of European military architecture anywhere outside of Europe itself. Just incredible. The main conflict, the real heart of the struggle for control, was between the British and the Ashanti. And they didn't just give in. For decades, they fought fiercely to resist colonization in a series of really brutal wars. In the end, though, by 1901, the British had managed to consolidate all these territories into a single crown colony. And this new political unit, they called it the Gold Coast. But here's the irony. In establishing their rule, the British actually, maybe inadvertently, sowed the seeds of their own undoing. See, things like a growing economy based on cocoa and access to a British-style education, well, that created a new class of educated Ghanaians. And what did they do? They started to absorb ideas about self-determination and began to demand a voice.
And this is where things get really interesting, because a split happens. The first nationalist movement was pretty moderate. They wanted self-government, sure, but in the shortest possible time. Then comes this radical new voice, Kwame Nkrumah. His party slogan? Self-government now. The difference is huge.
And just look at this timeline. It perfectly shows the incredible momentum building up. I mean, in just 4 years, the independence movement goes from this small elite group to a massive, popular movement that wins a landslide election, even while its leader is in jail. It's just amazing.
All right, so independence was won. But, the challenge of actually building a stable, successful nation, that had only just begun.
So Nkrumah's early years brought a lot of progress. He was this huge champion of Pan-Africanism across the continent and launched all these ambitious development projects. But his government started to slide into authoritarianism, and that ultimately led to his overthrow in a military coup.
And what came next was just decades of turmoil. It was this painful cycle of military coups and fragile, short-lived civilian governments that were just struggling with a declining economy. A really tough time for the country.
So after this really long walk through all that political instability, Ghana finally turned a corner. In 1993, a new constitution was adopted, and it established this stable, multi-party democracy that continues to this day. And so today, Ghana really stands as this powerful example of resilience in West Africa, celebrating its hard-won freedom and its democratic progress. When you think about it, its journey is just incredible. From a mighty empire, through the deep trauma of colonialism, all the way to a modern democracy, it really is a profound story about a nation's fight for its very soul.